Sick Harrison Price for Thursday, September 18th, 2025. And this show presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Toyota Pacific Dealers Studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer. Matt Sakaris alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. Big show planned for you today on the opening day of Vancouver Canucks training camp 2025, and we'll be in Penticton tomorrow doing the show from Yellow Dog. If you're in the South Okanagan, come on down and say hello.
Fans were out there to greet the backup goaltenders. They were the first ones on the ice, and even they got applause. That's how excited people are for Canucks training camp to get underway.
Well, I mean, the one thing I'll give the Vancouver Canucks credit for is that taking training camp around the province really extends the brand and lets it live and breathe with their fans. So I think it's a marvelous idea to take training camp around British Columbia. There's no better facility to do it in than the South Okanagan Event Center. And if you're going to mothball the Young Stars tournament, which of course was a big anchor for Penticton and extended the tourism season there a little bit, then I thought it was a good process, good procedure. Goodwill,
and ultimately
to bring camp to Penticton.
Seeing a third or fourth line Canuck around town is a bigger thrill than seeing 98% of the kids at prospects camp. So it's pretty cool.
Penticton faithful, a real life NHLer,
absolutely.
And I hope they will continue to take training camp around the province as we go forward here, minus a practice facility. Because once the practice facility gets, if the practice facility gets here, I imagine you're going to want to.
You said once it gets here. Crazy guy over there.
I suspect they're going to want to justify the investment in that and do training camp there. They'll have everything they need there, again, presuming one gets built. Our daily poll question brought to you by the Redwoods Golf Course. Who is best suited to play with Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser? You can vote for Jake DeBrusk. You can vote for Evander Kane. Do so at the Sick Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. Blake Price, what says you?
I'm going to be counterintuitive here a little bit. And again, this is not an endorsement of the transaction, but of the two obvious choices that we've listed, I'm going to go with Evander Kane. I'm going to suggest that having a little bit of strength, a little bit of a deterrent on the line, board battles to be won.
You have surprised me here, Mr. Price. I'm not normally surprised by your answers on these poll questions.
And again, I like the idea that there's two very different looks that this top line can do. I think you'll see both of them. But in terms of leaping off point, first look, opening night, that sort of thing, I think I'd put Kane out there.
So here's my question on that. That bumps DeBrusk to the Heatle line.
Yeah.
Who's getting DeBrusk the puck?
And for that reason, you would put the best playmaker outside of Pettersson is Connor Garland.
Okay.
There's not an obvious playmaker on this team.
I hear what you and of course, playmaking on the wing is an even rarer skill.
Yeah.
That's sort of what you need if you're going to deploy a centerman like Heatle. Although let's not sell him completely short. I mean, there's some of that there, but I'm not sure anyone would call him a setup artist.
This is also Heatle's best opportunity in his NHL career almost, right? To play with decent talent.
Yeah.
So
that too.
Yeah.
That too. I'm voting DeBrusk. They brought him here to play with Pettersson. He scored 28 goals last year. I know it didn't always work with PD last year, but I do think that line has a chance to be pretty good, and I also like the idea of having a couple of goal scorers beside Elias Pettersson, support him, insulate him as much as possible to hope you get his offensive game going. Not to mention the fact that if it is DeBrusk and Besser, I would suspect that Pettersson is going to do a lot of distributing, and that very well may open up his own ability to shoot and score some goals as the season progresses. The reason I would say Kane, though, with Hedel and potentially Garland, and that was not the case at training camp, we will get into that in a second, is that I can see more of Hedel carrying the puck in, bang, crash, get it to the net front, ugly, greasy goals, with two guys who are pretty good in tight spaces in Connor Garland and Evander Kane, right? Yep. Like Evander Kane is hard to move off the puck. He's a big, strong ox. And as we know, Connor Garland is a shifty, scrappy little battler. So, look, I think there's a world where the Vancouver Canucks can have success and have success early in the season and not have goal scoring be a problem for them early in the season with this reliance and production out of the top six. What I'm more worried about is what happens when those defensive systems take more root in November onwards, Blake, when teams get books on you a little bit more, not to mention if, in fact, any injuries crop up and you're forced to rearrange some of that top
What's
six.
going to be interesting is, remember, they open the season, as they often do, against both Alberta teams, which is a smelling salt to start the season, but it's also an elevated energy. Nothing will get the Canucks going, working harder, but the other way around as well. Like, Calgary plays hard. They are not super skilled, but they play hard. I could see an effort versus Calgary where they can neutralize a DeBrusk, Pettersson, and Besser through hard work and determination. Mm-hmm. The Oilers, who knows? Because you know that they want to play tough, but it's not the time of year for them to be playing tough. They might be.
They've had a lot of early season struggles, and they've had a lot of nights where it is quite easy for the opposition to score.
Yeah,
that Oilers team.
So that might be tempting for a DeBrusk appearance there, even though, again, Oilers are going to try and do things differently this year because you're right. They put themselves behind the eight ball every year.
Yeah. I will give Coach Huska credit. Calgary did play hard, played very hard last year. I do wonder if Dustin Wolf can be as good as he was last year, if the sophomore slump will be a thing for him, particularly since, and you'd have noted this last week, earlier this week, at some point when we were discussing a little bit more about the Pacific Division, upwards, downwards, needles, if you will. Because so many of those Calgary players are on the wrong side of 30, right? So many of the guys that they're relying on are older players, including their captain, Michael Backlund, who got a 2-year contract extension yesterday at 36 years of age. Well, the junior camps we have been telling you about at Redwoods have sold out for the fall here. Gangbusters demand out in Langley and beyond to take part in the junior golf camps for ages 6 to 16. So we'll be telling you about the winter camps that are getting going in a bit here. Private, semi-private junior lessons also available, flexible to your schedule. redwoods-golf.com/instruction. We did an on-course playing lesson with their pro Craig on Tuesday, and I was struck at how many of the tips and the points he was making were simple things that you really should know.
Yeah.
And yet you get on out there on the golf course, and recreational golfers know this, and for whatever reason, the brain gets some scrambled eggs in it, right? Like, for example, hit the green on the first hole. Wow, hit 2 good shots. Very happy with myself. 35 or so feet for birdie. You're not going to make it. The chances of you making that putt are so slim, right? So I get over and he goes, Matt, just think weight here. Your goal here, get down in 2 putts, stress-free par the first hole, set your day off. But of course, let's get to our top story. Brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Winery. And looking forward to getting to Yellow Dog and Neighborhood
tonight.
As soon as tonight. NHL Canucks on ice to start training camp with some interesting wrinkles from new head coach Adam Foote. And so much of Adam Foote is discovery for us here We don't have a track record. He's never been an NHL head coach before. We have heard from him twice, once when he got the job, once yesterday. And Blake has been making this point now. Well, he's been making this point for some time here over the last couple of weeks, but he's also been making this point year in, year out at this time of year in September. It's not like NHL training camps are the week or multi-week affairs that they used to be, where you are going to have all sorts of time to experiment with different line combinations, defense pairings. Like, training camp is now a 48 to 72 hour exercise.
They dropped the puck versus opposition
on
in 70
Sunday,
hours.
On Sunday.
Like, it's coming.
So what that has meant is that coaches do have to show their hand a little bit. They do have to immediately apply what they've been thinking about all summer.
Listen
what
to
they've
their
been
instincts.
strategizing all summer, right? And get a look at it for real. So 3 groups at Canucks camp. You have Quinn Hughes, Connor Garland, and others in Group B, and I believe they're skating right now, if I'm not mistaken. You have Elias Pettersson, Thatcher Demko, and others in Group A. Group C is a truncated collection, AHLers and hopefuls. So here are the interesting arrangements. J-Pat wondered about this on Monday. Would Jonathan Lekramacky get a real chance to play with offensive players? Because he's vying for a winger job with the Vancouver Canucks. And yet, he's a winger that if you're going to keep him, he probably has to play higher up in your lineup, right? I suppose there's a world where you could have him on a 4th line that doesn't play a whole lot 5-on-5 and use him as a power play specialist. But conventional wisdom, if Lekromacky's going to make the team, if Lekromacky's going to be a successful NHLer, especially here in his early NHL days, he's got to play with other offensively inclined players. Well, Adam Foote is giving him that opportunity. He's with Philip Hedl and Evander Kane. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, see how the kid elevates with appropriate line mates, because that's where he's headed in life. Like, there is no NHL world where Jonathan Lekramacky is a 3rd or 4th line player. Like, that is not a thing.
He's a top 6 or bust guy,
yeah.
I think.
You know, that's not the case for a guy like an Atu Ratu. That's not the case for even a Linus Karlsson. You know, like, you can see that guy, you know, helping out from a bottom 6. That's not Lekramacky. No. So why not see him where he's supposed to be and see how he elevates? And we've said this before with regards to prospects camps and even the minor leagues too. Sometimes it's hard for skilled players to play at anything but the very best level, because not everybody thinks the same way as they do. So,
and not everybody can deliver a tape-to-tape pass and the sort of things that you require to score goals in the National Hockey. What I love about this is Adam Foote putting Jonathan Lekramacky in a position to succeed. And there are a lot of old school hockey coaches who aren't quick to do that. So good on Foote. We'll see how Lekramacky does with those 2 guys, particularly if that line stays intact for a preseason game. We'll get back to forwards here in a second, but I do want to go to defense here because this was pretty interesting to me too. You got Derek Forbort playing the left side with the rookie right-hander, Tom Wielander. You have Kirill Kudryavtsev on the left side with the new addition, Pierre-Olivier Joseph. I'm not sure if a guy in his mid-20s qualifies as an NHL journeyman, but he's been around. He's played NHL games. He's profiling as a 7th defenseman, 3rd pair. He has played the right side, and that's where he is with Kudryavtsev. So Joseph is the lefty on the right side because, and I believe I saw DPD with
Myers.
DPD with Myers.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, Marcus Pettersson with Myers. Yeah.
DPD with Mancini.
Yes.
Yes.
I've got Joseph on the left, Kudryavtsev on the right myself, but
I saw that the other way.
Yeah, so I think there might be some rotation there.
Trans has it there. Kudryavtsev.
Bachelor's got him, Joseph on the left, Kudryavtsev. So who knows?
Conflicting info.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing with DPD. NHL player last year, right? Finished the season with the Vancouver Canucks. Clearly one of their 6 best defensemen. doesn't get dispatched to HL Abbotsford for their Calder Cup run. A lot of us thought, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. It probably says something about how they regard Elias Pettersson, that he's not playing in the AHL anymore. Shows up this year, they dispatch him to the prospect showcase. Okay, maybe keep him hungry. Don't get too big for your britches. And now, given the assignment with Mancini, given where they're playing Forbert and who they're playing him with, I wonder if this is a little bit more competitive on the third pair for the Vancouver Canucks than maybe I initially thought. I don't know where you were at on it, but like I had DPD and Inc. And, when Jeff earlier in the week said, like I think he's going to make the team and I think he's going to be in the lineup, but we'll see. I was quite skeptical. I'm a little less skeptical now.
Well, it would certainly then question the logic of having him not participate in the Abbotsford Canucks. Like if they're that questioned about his ability to make this NHL team, then why didn't you give him a very valuable learning tool?
Yeah, and what does that say about his summer?
Well, I mean, I don't know how he could have fallen from grace so quickly.
Well, if he showed up and didn't perform well on the testing, or they felt like the work wasn't put. You know how big these guys are on preparation and big summer. So I don't know, but
I think it's wide open. I think by spreading out the third pair love around and not having any identifiable rhyme or reason behind those third pairings or the possible, I think it means that it is wide open.
Yeah, and I didn't think it would be wide open for DPD. Like I thought he was locked in there. Like I was looking at it as some combination of Forbert or Joseph, but most likely Forbert as the veteran lefty playing third pair right side, or if DPD was going to play the right side, Forbert or Joseph on the left side, likely with Joseph as the seventh, Wielander and Mancini starting in Abbotsford. But when I see what I see out of Foote and his staff today, I do wonder.
And not that Forbert's...
It seems like some carrots are dangling here.
Not that Forbert's a kingmaker here, but, he's probably the most likely third pair, anchor, if you will, probably. And it's Wielander there. So it's they're giving Tom Wielander, despite what we saw as a shaky prospects weekend, they're giving him some pretty prime real estate. So, I mean, sometimes I do think coaches will do this because they're like, okay, Wielander certainly needs to be in the AHL, but let's give him one last swing for the fence here and see what happens. And this might be that for Tom Wielander.
Yep. Here's an interesting one. And look, I'm just going to use this as a jumping off point. Teddy Bluger is skating in the B group. I would anticipate that Teddy Bluger is going to be your third or fourth line center with Aatu Ratu as the other one. And I do think they're probably going to make Aatu Ratu displace Bluger to earn that third line center role. So Bluger is not in the A group, but he put the rookie first rounder Braden Coots with a certified NHLer Kiefer Sherwood on his right side and with Arshdeep Bains on the left side. Now, is there a world where Kiefer Sherwood's going to have to start on the fourth line after his 19 goals last year? I think there is. As we know, the gambit for Arshdeep Bains, Surrey's Arshdeep Bains, is you've got to beat out some combination of Linus Karlsson, Jonathan Lekremaki, Vitaly Kravtsov, Max Sasson to earn a spot on the opening night roster, if not in the opening night lineup. We'll see if there are any injuries that could further clear the path, but for the moment, that's how it looks. And of course, Arshdeep requires waivers to go down to Abbotsford, as does Kravtsov, as does Karlsson, whereas Lekremaki and Sasson are free to go down. Blake, is there a world where their lack of center depth and frankly, to some degree, lack of center quality as well, gets Braden Coots an early season look-see before sending him down to junior?
Oh, man. I think year +1, there's a smidge of a possibility. I think I can comfortably say the
0% chance?
0% chance.
Okay.
0%.
I'm going to say 1 or 2% chance.
Yeah.
I think if Braden Coots blows their doors off, and remember, they took this young man not just because he was a centerman who did some scoring with the WHL Seattle Thunderbirds. I mean, that's to be expected if you're in first-round consideration. They took this young man for a lot of the intangibles as well. Leadership, captain, pretty well-rounded game, both sides of the puck for 18 years old. If they even had, Blake, one more center who had played NHL games and that you could feel comfortable with in a fourth-line role for a short period of time, I may not give this one iota thought. But there was reporting in the summer that they consider Max Sasson more a winger than a centerman. Linus Karlsson has played scant time at center. In fact, didn't play center at all last season. Then you're down to like Joseph Lebate, Ty Mueller, who's hurt. If there was one other sort of quad A fringy center iceman in the organization, I might not consider this at all. But I think if Coots has a great camp and shows well in a preseason game, I do wonder whether there's a slim pathway to him being kept by the Vancouver Canucks and they see what they've got here in terms of his NHL readiness over a short period of games.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen. Probably not ready. I mean, almost certainly not ready.
18 and a half-year-old kid. I think it's...
That's how barren they are at center ice.
Yeah, and as I said, a year +1, I think all bets are off. I think there's absolutely a possibility, especially with Bluger gone at that point.
But you tell me, like if Teddy Bluger goes down in a heap grabbing his knee today, who's playing center?
Well, I mean, they've got Vitaly Kravtsov rotating at center with Atu Ratu right now.
Yeah, and I think that probably says something, right?
So I think they are looking at those sorts of options of when there's an emergency, what glass do we break here? And I think he might be one of them.
And, Nils Oman is there. He played the majority of his time on the wing last year. I suppose he's the alternative, but, as we saw with Oman, he's not great in that spot. He's probably a better penalty killer than he is a center iceman. The face-offs were an issue for him, and as you know, there can be some tough matchups at center ice. Anyways, we'll see where that goes. I hadn't heard anybody mention, is there even a snowball's chance on Braden Coots? Atu Ratu with Linus Karlsson and Vitaly Kravtsov. Could that be the fourth line on opening night? I think if you've got one injury further up the lineup, I'm wondering if this is a tip of the hand here. Like if somebody can't go amongst your core group of, and we talked about it yesterday, 11 NHL forwards, like in cement NHL forwards here. Are they one injury away from that being a line on opening night? And what do you think? Make Ratu earn the third line center spot?
I don't think you want to play mind games. Like I don't think that's sort of the MO at this point. Ratu showed you something really good at the end of last season. And I think that this team is not in the place to be playing mind games with younger players. You don't want to gift guys anything either, but I think you play that one pretty face-to-face and at face value and say, just do what you did last year. Pick up where you left off. I think they should also structure it for success for Ratu rather than get into any twisted sort of mind games about whether you're on the team or not. I think you got to assume he is.
For me, this one is pretty straightforward and simple. If Ratu reported in great shape, like he had a good summer, and Ratu does everything asked of him in training camp in preseason, I'm starting the season with Ratu as my third line center.
Yeah. You don't have any options, really.
Well, Bluger is the option, right? Like they have played Teddy Bluger as third line center before. They know that Teddy Bluger is a heady defensive player, and so That tends to make him trustworthy in the eyes of coaches to play the tougher matchups. And I get all that, and I'm not against all that. But Aatu Ratu, as we talked about at the end of last season when he was playing so well for the Canucks and through the summer, he now becomes a very important piece for this organization going forward because of the situation at center. They have to have him be a good NHL center going forward if they're going to be a competitive club. So I'm with you. To hell with the mind games there. If the young man shows that he's ready, just put him in that spot. And if he struggles and you have to make the move, make it then. But don't do it on the front end.
Yeah, they have to get into a habit more often than not.
He has to prove to me he can't hold down that spot more than he can, if you will.
But they need to build up some of these young players rather than tear them down and see how it works, right? Like, I think we are past that point now in sport as a general rule of let's strip this kid down and see how he reacts. No, let's, especially for a guy like Ratu, I think it's time to build him up and tell him he's a National Hockey League player. Back it up with your play on the ice rather than, I don't know, this flirty sort of stuff of, are you? I don't know. Are you? I don't mind the experimentation of Kravtsov down the middle. I've got no problem with that. But as long as you're also giving Ratu some opportunities as well, which it sounds like they are right now. So
Flirty.
Yeah.
It's not just flirty.
You got to give me some poetic license here.
Yeah.
Come on.
UBC English lit guy, after all. If you're into omens, Elias Pettersson took the first shot at camp and scored short side with a laser beam.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
I think everybody should be into omens at this point.
You're open for omens.
I would
not really open for omen.
I would burn
something,
sage or whatever you need to around Rogers Arena. I would exorcise every demon.
Have a seance.
Yes. Whatever you think will put your hand on the rope and pull it in the right direction. You go and do it, Canucks fans.
Have a drum circle on the plaza.
Yeah, because this market cannot afford.
No, it really can't.
We can't. We all of our society
really
cannot afford.
Yeah,
another backward step.
I haven't slept well the last few nights, and I think part of it is just a vision of them being like 7-1 with Pettersson stinking the joint up and thinking to myself, oh my God, what is this market? What is this fan base? What is this show going to look and sound like if they get off to one of these wretched starts?
We don't cheer wins and losses on this desk. What we do cheer is for an easy path in life, though, to some degree, and it's an easier path in life for us if Elias Pettersson is a good player this year. We have seen the other path. We have walked it. Yeah. I don't need to walk it again. I don't.
I mean, we were, as Jeff always says, we work with the material provided by the club.
That's true.
So I'm happy to do that. But, yeah, I mean, you're devoting a fair bit of your time to this now going forward, right? So you want it to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
You don't want it to feel like hollow and wasted hours. I've told this story before, Blake, but covering the Blue Jays a little bit from 1999 to 2001, that was a wretched ball club. That was the era, of course, when the Yankees and Red Sox really took off with the spending and everything and really sort of leaned on their competitive advantages. And, the early season games were fun enough because everyone was still in it. And then you got to July and August and you realized there was like 50 games left and there wasn't a hope of the postseason. Mm-hmm. And then you started thinking in more dire consequences in terms of like, well, is there ever going to be a season where they're competitive? And it took 15 more years. Like, I felt like I was wasting my life on press row.
That's right.
I'm like, oh my God, I got to write a story today about a Blue Jays team that's 13 games under 500, losing to an Angels team that's 12 games under 500. And
telling the same stories.
It might as well be an exhibition because both of these teams are going nowhere. There's no stakes or gravitas. You want gravitas.
I don't want the same story. I don't want to tell the same story.
Yeah.
Redemption story. Now that would be a fun one to tell. Hopefully we get one.
And I think Pettersson and I think Demko are poised for that story arc. First, we're poised to tell you about Neighborhood and Yellow Dog.
And there's some really tasty things to talk about this weekend. If you've got more time, if you're going up for the Canucks camp, boy, are you coming up at the right time. You've always got Neighborhood and Yellow Dog, which are like permanent beer fests because they're so close together. So it's just like there's always a beer fest in Penticton. But down the road, it's Wine Capital Weekend.
In Oliver.
And so Cask and Keg is the name of the Saturday festival. You can get your Yellow Dog Spirits fix with samples of their most popular drinks and lots of other great breweries. Then on Sunday, Festival of the Grape is part of Wine Capital Weekend. Buckle up for the wacky Sunday filled with delicious tastings from Foolish Wine and many more as well. It is a jammed weekend in that corridor, folks.
It is. Thatcher Demko speaks, and he takes shots at former Vancouver Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet. In an interview with Sportsnet's Ian McIntyre, quote, I think everyone was pretty shocked that Rick took off.
Oof.
I'm not really going to speak on that because it's in the past now, but I think footy is a guy that would lace up the skates and go kill a penalty tomorrow if he could. He loves the game, loves the hard parts of the game, and I think that's a huge, huge thing for our team. Just maybe be a little bit grittier and be committed to doing the hard things. Interesting.
Also said,
I know the culture is kind of shifting in the NHL
Yes.
as far as, the players have more rights and are able to maybe demand certain things or ask for trades or get out of contracts and things like that. But for me, I consider myself a pretty loyal guy. And after what we went through last year, I wanted to be part of the solution as opposed to kind of running from the adversity.
left shot, right shot.
Combo.
To Rick Tocchet.
Wasn't just a jab.
And hey, you know what? Sometimes you need to you've talked about manufactured slights. If that's what Thatcher Demko needs to champ on the bit and be extra motivated this year, by all means. This guy gave up on us.
Yeah.
We're still here.
And now we're left to wonder, based on how cheery he was in this interview, is his popliteus a thing in the past? Now, we were told last year that he's going to have to learn to live with that knee ailment to some degree. Just hopefully that it doesn't prove as troublesome as it was last year. And he told McIntyre that he added people to his personal team this summer to change his offseason training, make it more preventative given his injury history. He also said he spent as much time on his mindset as he did the gym, and it was clear when we heard Thatcher speak last year that it wasn't just the physical part of the injury that was weighing on him, but also how it was affecting his mentality. He went on to say, I missed enough time last year that I didn't feel like I really needed that much time off. He began his offseason training very early. So that's good. He went on to say it's been about 5 months of a really detailed and disciplined approach to get me in a good spot to be ready to go this year. So terrific news that the starting goaltender, the Vezina finalist, is in that sort of frame of mind. He talked about how much happier he was this year, not to mention to be more physically capable. He talked about how, sure, it was the knee, but then, because he was so laid up, he would feel other things last year, and that it all was like a snowball rolling downhill for him. So fantastic that he's back to feeling normal, both mentally and physically. We're going to get to Patrick Johnston here in a second from the South Okanagan Event Center. First, we got a super chat. Those of you on YouTube, that super chat is always there and available for you. Proceeds to the BC Mental Health Foundation. Scott says, I heard you guys mention yesterday there's a chance the next owners of the Canucks would actually get a practice facility done. Is this true? Okay, so here's what you heard, Scott. I am of the belief that because the Aquilinis are looking for an investor, remember they're buying out younger brother Paolo, I am of the belief that there's a world where this team could be sold and have a new majority owner if you can't find that investor. And it is more difficult to get a minority investor. Sports business people will tell you this all the time. So the Aquilinis have shown no desire to have to spend for a practice facility to date. So what I said was, I think the practice facility may have to be something the next owner does.
I don't think they like the next. I agree that there is the ground is becoming more fertile for a team sale, but I still think it's a couple of years away. And I think they'll announce now who's going to ultimately write the last check. I'll agree that the last check written for the practice facility will be by new owners, but I think it gets announced under these owners. I think they're going to have to announce something soon.
Yeah,
but you don't pay for it all day one.
We'll see. And look, the Canucks have been looking for this partner for some time, Blake. This became public with Paolo at the end of last year, but it had been ongoing for a while. I mean, I think you've got this year, and I think if you get through this hockey season and nobody has stepped to the plate, I would not be surprised if Roberto, Luigi, Francesco get together and have we did so well on this team as an investment. It is worth scads and scads of money. We can't find the guy to come on in, or there's not the right person to come on in. Maybe it's time we just hand it over to the next guy or the next one. All right, let's go to the South Okanagan Event Center in Penticton, British Columbia, Vancouver Canucks training camp, and joined by Patrick Johnston of the Province and Postmedia, our regular Thursday guest, who has taken in the proceedings. How are you?
I'm well. Perfect timing. Group B just leaving the ice. So there'll be no noise. Perfect, crisp audio unless Thomas Trance
but we
sitting next to me starts speaking.
We like the whistles. We like the carving
puck
of
off
skates.
glass. No one likes puck off glass. No.
I like puck off glass.
It's been a long time since
it's the sounds of hockey. That's when I love it, is in September when the sport comes back and you can refamiliarize yourself.
Was the cup awarded at the end of the Group B session?
There's a polite applause. Polite applause.
Yes.
From
No cup
the
awarded.
fans that are here.
Yeah. How did PD look?
Well, I will tell you guys. I was in the scrum, and he was asked again about the added muscle, and I can tell you his shoulders look much more impressive than before. So for whatever that means, I think the shot will be heavier. The rest, of course, is how it matters. But no, listen, he's looking strong, skating well. It's first day of training camp. Listen, and he answered all the questions. He didn't run away from anything. In fact, at one point, told Farhad, hold on. Adam Clearson-Blatt from the Hockey News. Adam's trying to get a question. Let him ask his question. It was very nice.
He was guiding traffic. I see.
Guiding
Very
traffic.
good.
It was, we've seen Tyler Myers do that from time to time. No. This guy over here. This guy, it was nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So we'll see. They're still got to play games, but the vibes. The vibes right now are pretty good. So
vibes with him, vibes with everybody. Does it feel like? We say everybody's hopeful.
Hope. It's day one.
Yeah.
They're they haven't lost any games yet, and they're feeling great. Everyone's happy, and Jim Rutherford's cracking smiles, and on and on.
Mm-hmm. Is there a Zamboni on the ice?
There is now a Zamboni. That's the drone of the Zamboni.
There's your sign. There's your sound that you
wanted.
wanted.
But here's the thing. I would much rather have the skates and the whistles and the puck against glass than the Zamboni, okay?
I absolutely agree.
Love the smell of the Zamboni.
Yeah. What struck you from taking in the proceedings this morning, Patrick? What caught your eye?
Well, I think it's the same as everyone else. We're seeing a lot more sort of work on odd man rushes, defensemen joining the rush. Adam Foote talked a lot about reads yesterday and the sort of need to almost freelance a little bit, a little less structure. We'll see how this team handles that. But yeah, definitely the focus being that, I suppose, play the game, I guess. We'll see how it shakes out. A little bit in line on what you guys were talking about with, the rejection, I guess, in some quarters of Rick Tocchet. But yeah, it's going to be a different team, and that is clear. Adam Foote said it yesterday, and he has talked to his guys a lot about this, and it's going to be a different group. There's absolutely no about it. With the way they play, the way they approach the game, Yeah, I mean, I had a great chat just now with Braden Coots, who's skating between a couple of NHLers. You know, there's a guy you wonder if he's got a chance. I mean, I think there's some interesting opportunities here, and it is that day. In the end, it's just that day one vibe. Everyone's feeling positive.
I want to talk Coots in a second, but
Yeah.
I saw Foote get some heat yesterday for that answer in terms of what kind of team you're going to be. We're going to be a team that adapts. I loved that answer.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that is next level coaching
Yeah.
when you're able to construct a team that has a chameleon-like way of playing to that specific opponent, neutralizing their strengths and exploiting their weaknesses.
But it's in contrast to decades of coach speak.
Especially in hockey, which
Yes.
tends not to be as advanced or as intellectual as the other sports.
Yeah.
What did you make of that answer?
Well, yeah, I mean, I raised my eyebrows a little bit because I have gotten so used to sort of prescribed stuff, and we know how things went when they were a little more freely wheely. I don't even know. Did I just invent an expression? The Bruce
Okay, we're
Boudreau
doing that
style of
today.
play.
We're doing that today.
We're making words up
The
today.
Bruce Boudreau way was very open, and that has just not been how things have gone. And certainly we saw a lot of success under Rick Tocchet with structure, with very much to look up. I mean, Tyler Myers used to talk about this a lot, about how sort of stable he would have the puck, he'd look up, and he'd know what to do. He wouldn't have to make a decision. And now we're going away from that. And, you know, for better or worse, we'll see how that plays. That may play to Elias Pettersson's advantage. That may play Filipino. I mean, we talked a lot about Filipino. Filipino plays a fast, quick game. Jake DeBrusk, we'll see how Jake DeBrusk... You know, there's a lot of guys here who you would think would want that, and yet I look at that season 2 years ago and the sort of core basics of how it went. Obviously, there was a huge, amazing bump in shooting and scoring. The goaltending went well, though, and the defensive system in front of them went well, and that's why the goaltending went well. So, you know, there is that other dynamic. You will open it up, you open yourself up on the back end, and how will this defense score? I mean, some of it, I guess, is a theory saying, listen, these defensemen know how to play. This is a more mobile, more sort of dynamic defense core than we've had. Perhaps a smarter, little more sort of hockey IQ defense core, depending on how it shakes out. But yeah, you look at a guy like Marcus Pettersson, and we know what Quinn Hughes brings. Those two guys are guys that know how to read the play and play smart. But it's pressure on Hronek and pressure on Myers and pressure on your third pair, which is, you know, Derek Forbort and probably Elias Pettersson. You know, can those guys handle playing the game? Can guys like Elias Pettersson, Junior Pettersson, can he handle playing the game at pace? And that's going to be the pressure. You know, Victor Mancini, if he makes the right lineup. It's a game that's meant to be, what do these guys do in the moment? And that's everything I'm thinking about now.
Or maybe the star players get licensed that others don't.
Yeah,
like there's that possibility too, right? Like, you know, just do whatever you did last year and then 180 degrees different for a guy like Elias Pettersson. Like, just allow this guy who at his best is an artist, allow him to paint.
Yeah, and I mean, I found myself thinking a lot about, I mean, Foote talked a little bit, and you mentioned Paolo Bure, right? But I found myself thinking of Adam Foote's own pedigree, right? Like, this is a guy that played on one of the most dynamic attacking teams in the NHL when he was with Colorado, right? Like, obviously they had two of the best centers in the game, right? And they had incredible wingers. But this was a team that attacked, and I think that's where he wants to go. He's looking at what his defensemen can do, and they can certainly skate. It's what happens when you don't have the puck, and how much does that matter? It's funny, actually. There was a topic I had, again, Coots, we were talking about. He cited Elias Pettersson as a player that he admires. And, you know, I said, I can understand why, because this is a kid that does everything around the ice. And Elias Pettersson, when he's on, is one of the most ferocious backcheckers in the NHL. A guy who has openly said, and I've said this before, does not like not having the puck. He wants the puck. So, yeah, it is exactly that. Like, I totally agree. There is a sort of a notion here that the way he wants to run things is a little bit more emphasizing the pure skills of his players.
Okay, get to the kid.
Are they?
Get to, you mentioned Coots twice. Why? He said 1 to 2% chance. I said 0. Where are you?
Well, I'm a 1 to 2.
Okay.
I think it's very small, but I don't think it's impossible. There are some open roles here. There's a lot about his game to like already. It becomes a pace question. Can he deal with the pace? And would he even benefit just with an early taste and then go back to junior? You know, that kind of, strategic. But certainly, when I saw him listed this morning, when I saw him go out there with Kiefer Sherwood and Archie Baines. I'm like, this is an interesting choice. They want to see if he could play with two guys who have a clear role in this lineup, and can he participate effectively in that role. And we'll see where this progresses. It is obviously one practice, and we'll see where he is tomorrow, and we'll see where he is on Saturday, and whether he plays on Sunday. But, you know, you can tell the excitement in this kid. He knows, like they all do, to keep his emotions in control. But you could see he was just like, yeah, I can feel this. I'm here. I'm a little bit starstruck. I will admit that. But you know, he's like, I mean, he's an Edmonton guy, right? Evander Kane was an Edmonton Oiler, right? He knows Jake DeBrusk from growing up. Right, like he played against Archie Baines. Archie Baines is obviously a great story. He knows Elias Pettersson. You know, he's been, I said, an admirer. He's just like, whoa. He was like in our meeting yesterday. He was like, whoa. But now here he is, and he's learning stuff, and he's discovered how short a stick Jake DeBrusk plays with, and on and on and on. You know, he's now realizing. He says, I know it's a cliche, but it's a sponge. I said, is there anything you need to be a better sponge at? He goes, no, I love it all. I just love it all. I'm a hockey nerd. And he was excited to be here. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see how the story goes, but he could be a very interesting story. Can you tell I'm writing a story about this?
Yeah, I think you might be writing a story on Braden Coots in the province. Check that out. But that's fourth line real estate. I think they're probably trying to find out, okay, could this kid hold down the fourth line center job if we get an injury at camp? Or if we just think he's too good and undeniable and want to try him out. Again, super small chance. But we'll see where this goes.
I mean, listen.
Like if you're Coots, you can certainly find worse spots to be in. Like, you know, organizations that like could line up 7 centers ahead of you. And that's not the case here.
And they've talked about that themselves. I mean, I'll just say. I mean, listen. I really enjoyed Max Sasson. I think Max Sasson was a great story last year. But in the end, it's an organization. You know what Max Sasson is. You know what Niels Oman is, right? Like the competition for finding a role in the depths of this lineup. There's a spot there, right? Like it's probably Ratu and it's probably Bluger as your bottom 2 centers, and I don't think he'll beat out either of those guys. But you are looking at a future where you'd like to see him in the lineup sooner rather than later, because a young player who can play the game, who has the sort of subtle skills that he has, and then the overt sort of clear energy and passion and smarts and the way he plays. I think there's a guy there that you can see why they would want to see how he would do with a couple NHL wingers.
Help me out here. DPD was with Mancini on the left side, right? Is that okay?
I think, yeah.
Are they trying to push him? Like, are they dangling something here? Do you have any idea whether they didn't love the way he came into camp or anything like that? I would have thought him not on the prospect showcase roster. I would have thought him a little better real estate on day one, but you tell me.
I suspect it's more just the status he's at, the ability to just get a little more coaching in with a player like that, just the way training camps work. You know, I mean, again, this is the first 3 days, so they get 5 hours with these guys as opposed to 3, which is the normal rule. So, you know, I really think it's more just the ability, just to go back to prospecting, but the ability to get a little more time just prepping with him. I think the way that the pairs shake out, I mean, listen, we know they also have to set themselves up for a few exhibition games here, right? Like you have to have some familiarity with the guys around you. We know, well, I mean, I had this great argument with Daniel Wagner yesterday, and I think Daniel was right. When it was forward and Pettersson was on the right, but you know forward can play on the right? You know, ideally Pettersson's on the left. So, Matt, I know you've been on this train for a while, and I cannot disagree with you. Could they trade him? Sure. I don't think that's the plan. I think that might be reading too much into it. I see them looking at their pairings and where these players are best suited, and he's best suited on the left. So,
yeah.
Mancini's a little forgotten, though, isn't he?
The point is just if you're getting a second line center, you need to give up something of substance and value. What do people ask for? They ask for young defensemen who are big, physical, have upside, and are cheap, of course, like DPD. I'm sorry,
if I'm Mancini, I'm a little bit jumping up and down with my hand in the air here because there's so much shine on Wielander and DPD. Even Kudratsev, because of the fine AHL season he had. Yep. There's just more shine elsewhere right now, and yet he, of course, was a big part of the return in the Miller trade, and I'm sure he's saying, guys, I shoot right-handed. Aren't you interested in that? I would think he wants to show well here.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I mean, listen, they talked a lot about him last year. They were very excited about him. had a pretty good Calder Cup run. Like, he's been a useful, but like, I think even when we said it, let's be real, this is a guy that's a 6 or 7 at best. So, this is how it goes. Things move quickly. You can be passed quite quickly by
exactly.
by the newest shiny thing.
Yeah, I mean, others think he's got enough mobility in hands that
Size.
he could be a second pair, but we'll see. No. I know there are two opinions there on Mancini. Did we talk Lekramaki yet?
Nope.
Okay. Blake and I love the fact that this new head coach, recognizing this is a young player, we may need his goal scoring at some point this year, even if it's not right out of the chute. And also recognizing that if he's going to make it as an AHLer, it's not in a bottom 6 role. So don't staple him with Bluger or Oman or those sorts. They're playing him with Hedel and Kane in what could be a second line. A word or two about his positioning and the decision on Foot and staff to give him this look.
Well, I mean, I wrote this a couple of weeks ago when I talked to him out at UBC. Like, exactly, he has an opportunity to change the dynamic of how this lineup sets up. And Höglander, what Höglander brings, what Garland brings, and they can be fantastic, third line depth scoring wingers. If you can make, if Lekramaki can make this work, that changes the dynamic for this team. And there's your second line winger, or another second line forward they've been looking for. But it's a huge task. He's still a smaller player. We know he's got the hands. It's about whether he can do the rest and find those chances and not just, bury chances off the rush. And he's going to be playing with Philip Hedel is not the passer that JT Miller is. And he benefited when he got to play with JT Miller. Philip Hedel is a different kind of player. He needs to find the pucks on his own. And that has, I think, I would say, in the struggle, especially in late season last year when he kind of ran out of steam, which he admitted to me just physically, that was a struggle. So, it's all about, can he do that early, but can he do that late in the season as well?
Maybe this was a throwaway comment yesterday, but Foot said that a couple of guys showed up heavier and skated well and hit their point. I mean, should we take that literally? Who's the other guy? We know it's Petey. Who's the other guy? Is it Lekramaki?
We'll have to quiz him this when we talk to him later here.
Yes.
Yeah, I no one obvious to me yet. But.
No one obvious, yeah.
Okay. Well, you keep eyeballing them.
Okay.
Don't be too creepy.
I'm going to run off and talk to Vitaly Kravtsov, find out why he came back.
Yeah, please do. Please
do that too. Yes.
We're going to see you later. Can I buy you a Yellow Dog dinner later tonight? You're going to be there still?
We'll figure something out, buddy. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not leaving until tomorrow. So.
Oh, okay. Brilliant.
See you tonight.
Dinner's on us.
Guys. Take care.
Thank you.
All
Patrick
right,
Johnston of the Province and Postmedia, who's up at the South Okanagan Event Center. Boy, dinner's going to get expensive here. We got a lot of contributors.
Hopefully
here,
there's some no-shows.
Our rule is producers don't pay, so Mike is not digging in his pocket for anything here in Penticton. That has been a long-standing. No, that's been a long-standing rule. It's been in practice with you and with others. It was, I've got to admit, difficult when T-Mart was producing the show, but nevertheless, we paid his way as well. And Patrick's there, and Quadrelli's there, and J-Pat is there, and Jeff will join us tomorrow, and Rob Williams is there, and Rob Williams is going to join us tomorrow.
Hopefully somebody's got a Nation Network credit card. Is that possible?
I have a good accountant, and we have tax write-offs available in the tax
No Nation
code.
Network credit card. Okay. All right.
I do want to circle back to something we were talking about, and we mentioned a little bit with Patrick as well there, and that is the presence of Evander Kane on that wing with Philip Hedel to start camp. Look, this is a Vancouver guy who said he's always wanted to play here, has always wanted to put on that sweater, wear that crest, play for his hometown fans. One of the things that became apparent with Evander in Edmonton for the last few years is just how much community involvement there was with Evander, and we have seen examples of that through the summer here already with Evander. He's 34, of course, looking to reignite his career because he missed all of last regular season. He played 21 playoff games. He had 6 goals and 12 points, so about a 45-point or so pace if you can extrapolate off that. There were so many injuries last year: knee, abdominal, hernia. And, of course, there's no Draisaitl or McDavid here, right? I mean, as good a player as Filipino or Elias Pettersson or whomever Evander Kane finds himself with, they ain't that. New head coach Adam Foote was asked about him yesterday, and here's how Foote sees Kane fitting in.
Yeah, we've had great conversation. I love his grit. He's hard to play against. We needed some of that sandpaper, and he's been some great playoffs, as you know. But we'll enjoy the way he plays and moving forward, his leadership, like in the hard games, right? So it's gonna be fun with him.
Yeah, I love so many things about that answer, and I got to hand it to Foote, Blake. For a guy who completely shied away from media in his 2+ years as an assistant on Tocchet's staff.
Very comfortable yesterday.
As a guy who's never been an NHL head coach, and so has very rarely, you got to go back to his playing day. I mean, I guess the Kelowna days, but it's much smaller at the junior hockey level. I mean, you've got to go back to his playing days. I was for the last time he was addressing sort of crowds of this size, media of this size. He's not most polished, but man, there were a lot of answers yesterday from Foote where I just found myself shaking my head like, yeah, he hit every right note there. They did need grit. They did need sandpaper, a player of this ilk.
He just looks comfortable up there, and he looked comfortable on the ice today, as we just saw. He's looking comfortable with being the guy with the hands on the wheel, and that's not everybody's ready for that, right? So,
but the last part about in the tough games, Evander has obviously played some exceedingly high-level games, Stanley Cup Finals over the last couple of years, but he's also played in some of those really mean, nasty games. And I got to think having Evander on your bench makes you stand a little taller, a little braver.
Yes.
Blake, because he is going to be right in the middle of all of that.
That's
I know you're going to bring up bad penalties. And again, last year, this past June, I was appalled at some of the officiating in the Stanley Cup Final, particularly that Game 2. They play an all-time classic. It was Game 1 or Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final, the overtime game, where we're like, whoa, what a hockey game. That was awesome. Everybody on both sides put on a show, should be proud that they were in a game of that level, and the officials stayed out of the way. And then the guys in stripes decide we're going to call everything in the first period of the next game, and there was many against Evander. I do feel like he's got a little bit of a target on his back, Blake, because he's not your traditional hockey player, right? Because he's a tall poppy. Like, you follow Tim Peel on Twitter, I think you get an understanding of how NHL officials work a little bit. I've always felt like Evander has a little bit of a target on his back with official, and I thought that was the case in the Stanley Cup Final.
You have to be careful. Year. There's two things working for and against Evander Kane. There's maturity. And so you think as you get older, you will make better choices on and off the ice in the case of Evander Kane. So that's the good news for Canucks fans. They've got that going in their favor. I'll say there might be something going against their favor in that he's coming home and that his exuberance of playing for his hometown team, can he hold that in check? If you think players play for their crest normally, imagine playing for the crest that you've always kind of dreamed about wearing.
The jammies and bed sheets.
That's the story for him in a really heated contest. I don't think it's going to be these first two of the season versus the Flames and the Oilers, but later on in the season, when there's something on the line, the Flames are hanging in around that playoff bubble as well as the Canucks.
Yep.
Can he make the right choices in the critical moments? You want him to play with passion.
Yep.
But let's hope that is not a storyline throughout the season where he went too far.
Especially if he gets drunk on sort of reactions from Rogers Arena when he throws big hits and whatnot. Because I'm not saying all the penalties against Kane last year were not penalties. No, there were absolutely legitimate ones. He does have a tendency from time to time to take stupid ones. But, of course, everybody in this market also knows what it's like going up against Gregory Campbell in a Stanley Cup final when his dad is in the NHL front office with that appalling conflict of interest.
He's going to be revved up. I'll
leave it at that.
He's going to be revved up. I hope he can handle that part.
Preseason begins Sunday in Seattle, then continues Wednesday in Abbotsford, where the Canucks have declared some of the participants. I know this is always important for you folks who are considering going to preseason games, particularly those of you in Abbotsford, the Fraser Valley, who may have a chance to get to this one, but not the ones downtown at Rogers Arena. So there's the poster. You can see it. Mike, you got the poster there? There's the poster. You can see it. Thatcher Demko, Connor Garland, Tyler Myers, Nils Höglander, Marcus Pettersson, Philip Heel. If you advertise them, they should be in the lineup. Barring injury, I suspect you will see those guys. No Hughes, no Pettersson, I get it. Saving them probably for the home games, but there you go. Some of the participants at the second preseason game in Abbotsford Wednesday. Our menu brought to you by Greta, a fantastic spot to watch all the games home and away to pregame or postgame. You are mere steps from the arena and the stadium. And if you need a venue for team building, maybe that's a sports team celebrating its year, maybe that's an office luncheon, maybe that's a family reunion, whatever the case, Greta, fantastic spot for that. Awesome menu, delicious food, huge arcade that encircles the bar, game for everyone, plus $25 bottomless wings. For more info to book your event at Greta, gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We'll be joined by David Quadrelli. Talked to David earlier today. He was also at the South Okanagan Event Center covering day one of Canucks training camp. And then Sarah Nurse, forward with the new Vancouver PWHL team. An Olympic champion, a world champion from a legendary Canadian sporting family, of course. Sarah is one of the inaugural members of this Vancouver team. Now, we don't have a team name, and we don't have a schedule yet, but it will be a November start at the Pacific Coliseum. And we ask her about playing in that barn, and she gives us a fantastic answer with regards to all the things that she has heard here on the ground in Vancouver about seeing hockey in that building. Again, of course, once the home of the Vancouver Canucks. We'll get into the Whitecaps. Great news for Tristan Blackmon. The Lions, terrible news for just about everybody on offense heading into Calgary, as well as the baseball where the M's and J's had their streaks snapped. That's all coming up on the program today.
I wonder what the Coliseum facelift is going to look like.
Well, I'm interested to see it.
Because it was
the
not
last time
looking
I was
awesome.
in there,
Last time.
I was in there. Carmen's nephew is a big truck guy, so we went to Monster Trucks, I want to say a year ago, March.
Yeah.
That was the last time I was in there. Yeah, certainly the Renault from 2010 had worn off.
Yes.
A little bit. So, yes, I'm most interested to see. I love the old footage from the Coliseum, like from the 94 run.
Oh, yeah.
Like when it pans the crowd.
They also don't make arenas like that anymore.
Well,
right?
they don't make arenas like that anymore, but also the vibe. Like I can remember as a young kid in Calgary, and my mom saying, "I just love the spirit of that Vancouver crowd, the way they sing, the way it seemed like more of a festival at the Pacific Coliseum than it was in other NHL arenas."
And I really hope they renovate the Agrodome wall because with daughters that have played there before, they've had to zip up their hockey bags when they go out to play, lest the rats jump into the bags. Seal up the holes.
Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I took a future yesterday, Mr. Price. How did you fare with
I was Jays bound, I believe, wasn't I? So
he never remembers.
No, they didn't work out.
We'll get into it later in the show, but the Lions are just so up against it now with this injury report against Calgary. Host of new injuries, keeping guys out, patchwork lineup. Honestly, I'm a little scared for Nathan Rourke, who's missing. Not just on the offensive line, but two of his favorite outlets, both Butler running the ball and catching it out of the backfield. Both Katoy is the big body target in contested spaces. This is such a big ask of Buck Pierce's team. I'm going Stampeders, and I'm laying the 5 points.
I'm looking at the Saints and Seahawks on the weekend, and there's two that I feel torn about. A rare chance where maybe the Seahawks pile up some points and could help hit the over of 41.5, but I feel more comfortable with the spread. I'm going to take the Seahawks minus 7.5. That leaves the opportunity very much open for a 20-7 sort of victory. Like it doesn't have to be high scoring. I think it's a single digits allowed for the Seahawks this week versus Saints.
Well, I will say this. I would not fear the New Orleans offense all that much.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I've heard the sentence Seahawks -7.5. It's been a while. I think you got to go back to the Let Russ Cook days.
No,
Or maybe even earlier, the beast mode days.
7.5 isn't that gaudy.
Okay. This segment, a presentation of Bet365, whatever you're bet. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION. When doing so, must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. David Quadrelli, your editor-in-chief, Canucks Army, coming up next. So Carson Price from the historic Wall Center, the Daily Faceoff, has your back with the brand new DFO Fantasy Draft Kit, your one-stop shop for everything you need to build that perfect fantasy hockey team. Well, perfect. Player projections, updated line combos, power play units, sleeper picks, bust warnings, very important, team previews, all the tools that are going to make you look like a genius while your friends draft blindfolded, whether you're a seasoned vet, fantasy rookie. This kit has everything you need to dominate your league. So before you make your first pick or before you panic in the 6th or 7th round, head over to dailyfaceoff.com/draft-kit. Get your hands on the fantasy draft kit. Fantasy hockey winning starts at dailyfaceoff.com.
Like, don't draft Matt Zuccarello. If you
No,
know
exactly.
he's not starting the season.
But you may draft Jonathan Lekramaki in deeper
Maybe.
leagues based on where he started at training camp. As we welcome in the editor-in-chief of Canucksarmy and the host of Canucks Conversation here on the Nation Network, our buddy David Quadrelli from the South Okanagan Events Center in beautiful Penticton, British Columbia. How are you?
Good. How about you, gentlemen?
Yeah,
Good.
looking
Good.
forward. Very excited to get up there and see everything that's going on. So, David, let's start. Group A, Group B, Group C. We've split them into groups. Tell us a little bit about each.
Yeah, so Group C started today. That's going to be every year. It's your junior guys. It's your AHL kind of lifers, as I like to call them. But some interesting names for Group A and Group B. You can kind of start to see some line combinations, even though we haven't seen them on the ice yet. You can kind of formulate what you're going to see. So I wrote about this. The one thing that seems pretty clear based on Group A especially is it's going to be Pettersson with DeBrusk and Besser. The big question of the summer, or one of the big questions of the summer, was it going to be DeBrusk or was it going to be Evander Kane getting that shot? It looks like it's going to be DeBrusk skating with Brock Besser. That would leave Kane with Philip Hedl on day one. And another interesting spot when we look at those groups is of Group B, which has Kane, which has Hedl. Is it going to be Connor Garland there? Or is it going to be Jonathan Lekramaki, who I'll remind everybody last year started training camp on a top 6 line? I would be kind of shocked if he wasn't on that line with Kane and Hedl, at least to start camp. Not saying he's obviously going to stick there all preseason. It's going to be a challenge for him to make this team. We know that, but I think he's going to get that shot to start, and that kind of leaves you with the third line of, are you going to see Niels Höglander kind of filling in where Dakota Joshua was on that trio with Teddy Bluger and Connor Garland? Again, Group B leaves the door open for that, so I'm going to be really interested to see how the wingers shape up there.
It's a good spot for Lekramaki or Garland because those are two big dudes in Hedl and Kane. So to offset that with the lighter weight guys on the right side, and if you're looking to put some training wheels on Lekramaki, that seems to be a pretty good spot. It's just he needs to keep his head above water and keep shooting and scoring. It's
an interesting one because, again, you have a guy in Hedl who's not a weakness, but it's not, his shot is not a strength of his. Whereas then you have Lekramaki, who's, got one of the better shots on the team already. So, it's an interesting kind of yin yang there.
Do you like DeBrusk, Besser, and Pettersson David?
I think so.
Or were you once someone who wanted to see Evander Kane?
I do want to see Evander Kane. I still want to see it. I do. I still want to see Evander Kane. But DeBrusk and Pettersson had some chemistry together last year, and Besser needs to build chemistry with Elias Pettersson. Like let's call a spade here. He had his best moments playing with JT Miller. He struggled to find chemistry with Pettersson in the past. That can't happen anymore. You need to be able to play with this team's best center, and they're hoping Elias Pettersson is that, obviously, but Brock Besser is here long-term. Elias Pettersson's here long-term. Those two need to figure it out together. So I'm all for getting them every rep that they can together, and that starts, obviously, today on day one of camp. But I really do like DeBrusk on that line, too. I think DeBrusk fits well with Pettersson. So it'll be interesting to see if that sticks, how long that sticks, if Evander Kane eventually gets a shot there. I thought it was going to be Kane, admittedly, on day one of camp, but they're going with some familiarity. And to me, like, that's the coaching staff saying, hey, we can't have a slow start this year. Everybody needs to get with their guys that they're going to play with. And that's the thing. These lines are pretty similar to what we would see if the season started tomorrow.
Yeah, and we're just learning Adam Foote, and we talked about this with JPAD earlier in the week, but I love what he's doing with Jonathan Lekramacky, right? Like, this is a kid who's got to play with skill when he becomes a National Hockey Leaguer, so giving him the opportunity with Hedel and Kane gives him the opportunity to put his best foot forward here in camp.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that shot, right? You look at what this team's going to be lacking. Sometimes it's going to be finding the actual trigger man. Like, if Connor Garland's on that line, he's not necessarily a trigger man. Lekramacky can be a trigger man, and you've got the zone entry machine in Philip Hedel. I kind of like that duo. I'm starting to talk myself into it quite a bit here.
A hot take based on that top line, though, if it is going to be constructed like that for any significant amount of time, Elias Pettersson will have a tough time getting to 30 goals again. You know, like, he's got to be the playmaker with DeBrusk and Besser. I mean, you know, that's going to be tough. He'll have to take he'll have to feast on the power play if Elias Pettersson's going to be a 30-goal guy.
Yeah, that's an interesting. It is a good take, I think, too. It's an interesting one, but again, if Elias Pettersson has 26 goals, 25 goals, but they make the playoffs, and that line,
and the other guys have 30, right?
Exactly.
That's all that matters.
None of us are complaining, right? Exactly.
Yeah, cross the bridges as we get to them, I suppose. Further down the lineup, flesh out the rest of that third line. If Hoaglander's going to be Dakota Joshua, as you say, what are the chances that some of the AHL guys can actually start to steal some ice time away from a guy like a Teddy Bluger at even strength?
Yeah, I mean, what happened at camp last year? Ratu knocked down the door and earned the job. Like, let's not forget, he started the season, that last season, in that spot between Garland, between Joshua, and that was because Pia Suter went down. But right now, if it is Bluger that starts there, that's a job that Ratu is going to be trying to take. And it's one that, again, like I said, he knocked down the door at camp last year. So can he do it again? There are certain players that just look really good in training camps, look really good in the preseason. Can Ratu start to get that as part of his identity, where he's prepared, he comes into camp and he's ready to go, and he's able to knock down the door again for that spot? Like, that's the one I'm looking at right now, where when I look at the rest of the lineup and I say, okay, if Teddy Bluger's going to be on that line, at least to open camp, like, there's a challenge for Ratu right there. Like, there's your spot. Someone else has it. Go get it.
Yep. And not too much too soon for the youngster, and I think that's probably wise. Carlson, Lekramacky, although based where he's stationed today, I think that might be a clue. Kravtsov, Baines, Sasson. Are we looking at those four, maybe those five, if you want to include Lekramacky, in terms of a fourth-line winger role? What says you? What do you where do you think that's headed?
Yeah, again, that's the job that's open for camp, right? And one name we haven't even talked about yet is Kiefer Sherwood, who is going to have really big expectations, but doesn't look like he's going to be part of this top nine. Now, again, they have a lot of guys. They want to get Lekramacky in the top six spot. I'm not looking at this day one of camp. I'm not looking at it and reading into it and saying, oh, this is punishment for Kiefer Sherwood or anything like that. But it was interesting to me that it doesn't look like Sherwood's going to be on an NHL line right away to open camp. It's going to be something to watch for sure, but the reason this is so interesting to me is that last year when they opened camp, these lines more or less were what they opened the preseason with. Like, these were the playing groups that alternated games, and these were your line mates during the preseason. That's why it's interesting to me. And again, I'm trying not to read too much into it, but this is why I'm having these discussions right now, is that this is what they did last year. They had their groups early, they had their lines early, and they rolled with these through camp. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of formulate it through the preseason. But as for that spot in the bottom six, like, it feels like Linus Karlsson. It's felt all summer like he has the inside track to that role, right? Like, this is a guy who's so good along the wall. We were talking about him last year at camp as well, as a guy who kind of stood out, even though it was clear he wasn't going to make the team. He did a lot of good things. And let's also not forget, he played playoff games in 23-24. Like, that matters. That shows that you have that baseline game. And does he have more offensive upside than a guy like Arshdeep Bains, who can do enough to not hurt you at 5-on-5, but hasn't shown enough, I think, offensively at the NHL level? I would say it's Linus Karlsson's job to lose heading into camp.
Coaches have told us for the last few years not to believe our eyes with what we see, because it's a holdover from the old 7-day training camp where you'd have the time to fully tinker and flesh out things. But nowadays, you start where you think you have the best shot of having success early in the season, so they tend to stick with it just a little bit. The fact that AHL guys had success late in the season in the NHL, or late in the season on the Calder Cup run, you hope, Quads, that some of that momentum carries over for a guy like Ratu, for a guy like Elias Pettersson, even at the NHL level. Like, you hope they remember what that is like and bring that to the table here early in the preseason and regular season.
Hopefully they can instill a winning culture in the NHL locker room, right?
Yeah,
like,
maybe
that's
that
what
too.
we're all hoping for, right? That's what we're all hoping for. And yeah, absolutely try to have that rollover, right? Yeah, you had a shortened off season, but a lot of these guys, like, Lekkerimäki's one of them that looks ready to go. And you want to just keep building off that momentum because you did so many good things, right? Like, that's the thing that we always need to kind of bring it back to and remember is they won the Calder Cup because these guys did so many good things. They bought into a system. They were the effort was nonstop. Bring that into training camp and you will find success. And also, I joked about, instill a winning culture in the NHL group, but in all seriousness, if the bottom guys are pushing the pace like that, it only makes everyone else better. If your bottom line is pushing the pace like that, it's going to lead to a strong camp and should be a strong preseason as well.
Tell us about the defensemen, how they're grouped, and if there's anything you can ascertain there, David.
Yeah, so you got Hughes, Hronik in Group A. Let's not forget last year, it was Hughes, Vinny Desharnais. Thank God there's no experiment like that going on this year. Then it was Marcus Pettersson, Tyler Myers. Those are going to be the top two pairings for the team. We've known that for the past year, basically, right? So, calendar year, I should say. But the interest comes on the third pairing, where we see Derek Forbort skating in a group with Tom Willander, who, high expectations, right? We saw him at the Prospect Showcase. We saw him at the UBC skates, and kind of reminds me of Elias Pettersson at this time last year, where I looked at him and said, yeah, okay, he's not NHL ready, but for Elias Pettersson, that was a really quick jump. That was going down to Abbotsford, spending a month or two down there, and really, you had the tools with Elias Pettersson, as Thunder does. You had the tools, but you had to learn the game. You had to think quicker. You had to be better on your retrievals, and you started to learn where pressure was coming from at the pro level. That was a quick lesson for Elias Pettersson. Can it be that quick for Tom Willander? Does he even need that, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I think he needs that time in the AHL right now, but he's starting camp, it looks like, on the de facto third pairing alongside Derek Forbort. Again, that's interesting because you thought maybe Elias Pettersson would get that job. You thought maybe Victor Mancini would be in the running for that job as well. At least to start camp, it's going to be Tom Willander. I think we'll see preseason games with Tom Willander and Derek Forbort on a third pair. That's why it's interesting. If I'm giving you my prediction, if they want to camp, if I'm giving you my prediction, Tom Willander's cut from this team. He starts in Abbotsford, and it is going to be Elias Pettersson that makes this team, even though he's not there at that spot. Right now, I think that's where he'll be on opening night, is in that spot with Derek Forbort.
Putting him in the Prospect Showcase and then not putting him on, as you say, the de facto third pair on day one of camp. It's almost like they're trying to dangle or motivate here with DPD. You also wonder, how do they feel about a summer after those? Both of those are a little curious to me. David, you're a noted goalie guy. Thatcher Demko spoke this week. What's your confidence level that Demko is back to being himself, as he mentioned in that article?
Well, I have no reason not to believe him, right? Like, he wasn't saying that at this time last year, and I believed everything he said last year about how much of a struggle it was and how many setbacks he had and how tough of an offseason it was. And look, this is a trend with Thatcher, right? Is you have an offseason to prepare where you're not rehabbing anything and you have a good year. But when you suffer an injury at the finish line and then you have to spend part of your offseason rehabbing, then some struggles start the next season. Even if you rush back and even if you get back in time, you struggle. So this is becoming a pattern for Thatcher. He had a full offseason to prepare. He talked about becoming a dad and all that stuff, or for the second time having a second child, and how excited he is about that. His perspective, I think the fact he was talking about that, I have no reason to believe that it's going to be anything but a great year for Thatcher Demko. And again, it leads into the conversation about workload. And we saw Kevin Lankinen play some really, really strong games for this team, especially early on. Maybe, suffered a little bit at the end of the year. His game suffered a little bit at the end of the year. Do you get the best version of Lankinen if you limit what he's doing? And do you get the best version of Demko when you limit what he's doing as well? I would say, yeah.
Any karaoke planned in Penticton this year? What's the game plan?
Oh boy, here we go.
We'll see. I'm enjoying all the restaurants. Like, I'm trying to, because I went through, obviously I was here last year. I went to 4 places last year. So I'm trying to do like at least 2 different places than I did last year. But we'll see. I don't know. I might hit up a karaoke bar now that you mentioned it, Blake. I might have to.
I don't know why you would stray from Yell the Dogger neighborhood, David.
Hey, that's fair. We were walking by it last night. It looked really nice, and I'm going to have to head there tonight.
Yeah, please do. I'll meet you there. Thank you for this. Catch up soon, buddy.
Cheers, boys. See you soon.
So, Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. Our next guest is an Olympic champion, a 3-time world champion, and will be amongst the inaugural players for the new PWHL team here in Vancouver. It is our pleasure to welcome to the program Sarah Nurse. Sarah, how are you?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for the time. So, how excited are we here to get to Vancouver and get all this started?
I'm very excited. I feel like off season's been really long, and so we're really excited to just get to Vancouver and kick off the season, get into our new building, which we're really excited about. So, yeah, a lot of firsts are coming up, which we're super pumped about.
And is there extra responsibility with being amongst the first for this team?
No, I honestly think it's just a privilege. It's so exciting to be able to, be the first professional women's hockey team here on the west coast of Canada. I think that's absolutely amazing. And we've had so much success in years 1 and 2. And so we're looking to just bring that and amplify that in Vancouver.
Did you have a feeling this was coming when they were doing the expansion draft? Did you feel like you were going to find yourself in one of the new locales?
I definitely knew it was a possibility. Just with us only having 6 teams, the small number of players being protected, and obviously knowing Vancouver was such an excellent market, and then getting to chat with Kara through the expansion, I guess, free agency period, signing period there. It just seemed like such a great fit. And so I was just so excited about the opportunity, and so grateful that, she wanted me to be a part of it with her.
We've been duped in sports before by looking at a team on paper and going, well, that's just a great team. And not always does it work out that way. But for an expansion team in particular, and maybe even you take away that caveat of for an expansion team, this just looks like a really good team. And the fact they've accomplished this via an expansion draft and free agency, are you pretty excited? Because there is up until maybe the Vegas Golden Knights, there's been this sort of label of expansion team being bad, but this certainly doesn't look like a quote unquote expansion team.
Yeah, my hat goes off to Kara and Brian and the rest of the staff. I think they put together a group of players who have really proven themselves at the professional level. And then with our draftees coming in with a lot of international experience, a lot of great experience at the NCAA level and U Sports as well. So my hat goes off to them. But I'm excited. I think there are players that I've played with and against for many years that I'm excited to get to go at it with them. We want to be a championship caliber team. We want to win a trophy at the end of the season. I really think that should be the goal of any team, any player when you start out. Like, you don't go into a season like dipping your toe in the water. You want to dive head first and ultimately set yourself up for the best chance of success at the end.
Well, let's get more specific then. Tell us about a couple of your teammates. Who are you looking forward to playing with?
I mean, obviously coming from Toronto with like Hannah and Izzy and Soupy, I have a lot of experience with those guys who have been great through our first 2 seasons. But having players like a Michaela Cava or Michelle Carvinen, I think those are like key pieces who have obviously been able to win at the professional level. Who Michelle Carvinen has had such an incredible international career, and so having her being like our first pick in the first round was pretty exciting. I was like, that's such like a slam dunk ad, and so yeah, there's so many players that I'm excited to play with, like Sophie Jakes
She's
on
like
the
an
back
assistant
end.
coach. She's
Yeah,
like an
exactly.
assistant coach too, isn't she? Yeah. I mean,
100%. Yeah, she brings like this wealth of knowledge and experience. I played against her. She was at North Dakota, I believe, when I was at Wisconsin, and so she was a little bit older than me. So she was somebody who I like looked up to because she was such a great player, had such a great track record, and I know she has a lot of familiarity with Coach Adolski already. So I think it's just so exciting. We have such a great team, and I'm excited to see how the pieces fall into place.
Blake and I have both covered women's hockey, and the one thing that stands out is just how fierce that Canada-U.S. rivalry is. One of the great rivalries in all of global sport. Now, I know many of the Canadians and American players coexist and play on the same teams in NCAA hockey. What's been your experience at the professional level with the Canadian and the American athletes, and how they have gotten along and pulled in the same direction for their club teams?
Yeah, I think like the cool thing about sports, and I mean, it's like a microcosm of society and like the business world and your professional worlds. But when you're on track going in the same direction with the same club team and you want to win a championship, you're going to work together as best as you can. And getting to know some of my American teammates last year in Toronto, like I was rooting for them to make their national teams because like at the end of the day, I want to play with and against the best players in the world. And if I'm, on a team with an American player who's one of the best players in the world, I want to go against her in a world championship and at an Olympic Games. And so I think we're playing professionally together. We're definitely, I guess, rowing up the same stream, but on that international stage, like there's so much national pride, and we want to bring a gold medal back home to Canada, and I'm sure they want to do the same for their country as well. So it's a lot of fun to play with them professionally, but on the international stage, it's all business.
we love that rivalry so much. It's amongst the best rivalry in all of sport. It truly is. That being said, it'd be cool if there was 4 or 5 of those teams that do that. And the progress is there. I'm not saying there hasn't been progress there, but maybe a little slower than we'd hope. But the PWHL could be a bit of a fast track to making that happen and allowing some of the other nations to get those star players with good reps on a year by year basis. When you guys talk to each other, what do you think that's going to take? Is it 3 to 5 years of the PWHL? Is that a 10-year project? What do you think?
I mean, it's so interesting because everybody always talks about how Canada and the US is always at the top, and it's hard because it's not like the other countries are sitting there like struggling behind us. Like they're very good. You watch them on the international stage, they're very good, but like we continue to get better as well with Team Canada and Team USA. Like we don't want to be caught. We want to keep pushing to be the best that we can be. But I know some of their star players, like you have like an Alina Mueller from Switzerland who has come over and done great things in Boston. And so getting some of her teammates from Switzerland to the PWHL, I think would be awesome. But as well as the other countries, we have a lot of Czech players. A lot of the Finns are starting to come over. And so we're starting to see like that shift a little bit. And I definitely know that it's probably going to take a few years for everybody to be willing to come over, but I definitely think that process is like already ongoing, and I think that it's been great so far.
I was at the takeover game at Rogers Arena. Man, that was fun. The electricity. I've had 2 daughters play ice hockey. One still in it. Just to see the place filled with, but I mean, I shouldn't limit it to just girls there. I mean, everybody there had a great time. Did that convince you that this was a market, and was that just the latest evidence that this league will work?
No, I think it was huge. Getting to play in Vancouver last year, I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, Vancouver doesn't get a lot of professional women's hockey, and we've played there a couple times with the national team, but we didn't really know what to expect. I heard good things. I was getting like great messages on social media, just people telling me they're excited. But to get to Vancouver, like from the moment we landed, we were greeted with such a great reception. People were recognizing us on the streets, in the hotel, and so when we got to the game and saw like how packed it was and how how much energy, like it was pretty exuberant in the crowd. Even after the game, it felt like nobody left. Like I went up to see some friends that I had in Vancouver, and it just seemed like the lower bowl was still packed. And I was like, how and why is everybody still here? But there was so much support coming to Vancouver. So I think leaving that, like we all got on the plane, we were like, well, I guess there's going to be a team in Vancouver next year after that turnout. So we were definitely ready for it and expecting it.
Well, and we're asking Sarah these sorts of questions because she's not only an athlete, but she's one of the builders, one of the founders of the PWH Players Association that helped found this league. So, Sarah, let me paint you the picture. Opening night in November, Pacific Coliseum, big crowd, kids in jerseys, anthem playing, about getting ready to happen for real. What do you think your thoughts and emotions, and what do you think the pride will be like on that evening?
I think it's going to be huge. I was in Vancouver a few weeks ago for some media and to kind of like get to know the city a little bit. And everybody talked about the Pacific Coliseum, and that's just magic. Like every single person who I spoke to was like, the Coliseum is just so magical. And I really think that in years past in the PWHL, like we call our games, they're like Taylor Swift concerts. Like everybody's having the best time. The energy is amazing. And so thinking about playing in a historic building like that, I know they're doing a bunch of renovations and upgrades. I got to do a walkthrough a couple months ago, which was really cool. And I just think that it's going to be like a sigh of relief. Like, you know, professional women's hockey is finally here on the West Coast. And I mean, we couldn't be more excited to represent the city of Vancouver.
And we're thinking training camp first week of November, season 2 weeks later. Is that sort of the timeline you've been given?
I mean, roughly. I'll be in Vancouver at some point in November, so I'm hoping to get started in that month.
Yeah. What about the team name, Sarah? Do you have any thoughts? Do you have a timeline for that? We're all interested to find out.
I know. I'm just as interested as you are. I am waited with bated breath here to find out the name. I think that it's so exciting because obviously there's so much speculation, and being able to name a team and have branding surrounding a professional hockey team is like always so exciting. So I'm excited for when we get to find that out. But I mean, to just like play in Vancouver in our blue jerseys, to have Vancouver on my chest, I think that I'm most excited about that. And I know that the name and the branding will come when it's perfectly right.
One request. Can you guys please hate the Seattle team with all of your heart?
Rivalry
because
Seattle.
The Kraken and the Canucks have really let us down in this regard. It's been very tepid, and it's just sort of like they play each other, but there's not a lot of oomph there.
Yeah, it's like a pillow fight.
Yeah, so you make sure that you guys do something cheap, maybe a little butt end or something. Elevate the rivalry just a little bit for us.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a natural rivalry there. I'm sure that a lot of teams in the league are not going to like Vancouver, so I'm sure there's going to be some pretty heated matchups whenever anybody comes to town.
Well, we're so looking forward to this. Sarah, thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on getting everything with the league and with this franchise to this point. Looking forward to it. Appreciate
Thank
this.
you, guys. Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Sekeres Price from the historic Wall Center. Big game downtown. Make it more than just a night. Make it a memory. Stay steps from the action here at the Sheraton Vancouver Wall Center with an exclusive Sekeres Price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Mention the show. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Well, that sound you heard of angels singing coming from UBC. That was the reaction of Vancouver Whitecaps FC, who learned that center back Tristan Blackmon has only a knee sprain, not a tear or something worse, after getting hurt Tuesday in Canadian Championship.
The immaculate MRI, we shall call it. A beam of light
yes, exactly.
shining down on UBC Hospital. Presumably.
Now, of course, Ryan Gault has been out 6+ months with a knee injury that isn't a tear. We should add that important context. But officially, or I guess according to club reporter Sarita Patel, Blackmon suffered an MCL sprain, and the club's focus is getting him ready for the MLS playoffs. If he can play this year, that is a massive relief to Jesper Sorensen and the Caps. Now, how many weeks until the playoffs?
I mean, five weeks till game one from here. Like, that's a good chunk. Like,
right.
This was the best case scenario all along. That it's just and we've seen this again. Extreme sprain Still going to take weeks and weeks to heal. Mm-hmm. But even if he only misses leg 1, then you're talking 6 weeks to leg 2 of the best of 3 series.
Yeah.
This is
first round is best of 3, everybody. Then it's single elimination knockout after that. We mentioned because the MLS has changed its playoff format a fair bit over the years. Caps into Kansas City Saturday, trailing Minnesota by 2 points, and first place San Diego by 4 points in the MLS West. So officially third on the table, but they have 2 games in hand on both. We've been telling you about that. And they will host either Crosstown Club, Vancouver FC, or Atletico Ottawa in the Canadian Championship final, also a single game. October 1st at BC Place. VFC and Ottawa play the second and final leg of their semifinal tonight in the nation's capital.
Incidentally, if the Whitecaps can win the Western Conference in terms of even who they face, if Blackmon and others needed an additional week and a half off, right now they'd be lined up to face Colorado or San Jose as the wild card winner. Both of those teams are well below 500. In fact, San Jose's 9 wins, 13 losses. That could be the first round opponent for the Whitecaps. If you can't beat that team with Pupa and Schoenlau, you might not deserve, or Halbuni, whomever. So you might not deserve it.
You tell me, how tough is this schedule going forward, MLS? In Kansas City Saturday, home to Portland, in Seattle, home to San Jose, all the way to Orlando, home to Dallas. That's reasonably manageable. Right?
Seattle's a stiff test. Of
course they are. Yeah.
Portland is scrappy, so they're not to be outdone, but you're at home for that one.
The long trip to Orlando could be a thing. And, of course, this Canadian Championship final creates another week where you're playing a midweek game. And so fatigue will be a thing. And, of course, depth will be a thing because if, in fact, Blackmon is not playing any of these games, you're going to go deeper down the bench, right, to find your center back cover.
And Orlando's in an international window, I believe. So who's available for that remains to be seen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing soccer related, the new FIFA rankings are out. Canada is number 26 in the world. This is the men's side. After those friendly victories over Romania and Wales. That's up 2 spots from 28th.
All-time high.
Their next opponent, Australia, is right there sitting 1 spot ahead of them at 25.
And Ukraine, I say Ukraine's right below them. And, of course, they walloped Ukraine in June as well. So, taking a look at the people around them, they've already had success there.
And they got Colombia coming up as well in October in a friendly. They finally lost. We're talking Mariners and Blue Jays here.
Yeah.
2 long winning streaks come to an end on Wednesday. Seattle loses its first in 11 at KC. Canadian relief pitcher Matt Brash. He missed some time at the beginning of the year. Then he went 2 months without surrendering an earned run, and he surrendered only 2 earned runs over his first 3 months. Well, he surrendered 4 in the 8th inning last night. And apparently the Royals have just battered him over the course of his career. That blew a 1-run lead for the Mariners. They now trail Houston by a half game in the division. They're 2.5 up on the wild card. Cleveland's hard charging here. Cleveland won again last night, charging both in the AL Central and in the wild card race. So this could be interesting. Jays lose in Tampa, their first defeat in 7, despite another sterling outing from Kevin Gausman.
The pitching's been very good here, Matt. Now I'm just worried about the bats. They can't seem to get the runs right now.
Well, at some point you were going to feel the effect of losing Bichette.
Yeah.
Yariel Rodriguez was the culprit last night after Gausman, who's been nearly unhittable in September and has cemented his place in the rotation, postseason rotation. Toronto finishing its 4-game set in Tampa tonight with Chris Bassett. Today, with Chris Bassett on the bump, Seattle throws Luis Castillo at the Royals. We mentioned, odd for the Royals, you're hosting both Seattle and Toronto back-to-back here. So Jays into Kansas City this weekend. See future Blue, and we should mention, there are 4 former Vancouver Canadians on this Blue Jays roster, outfielders Davis Schneider and Addison Barger, pitchers Trey Savage, Mason Fluharty. See future Blue Jays next spring and summer at the Nat. Become a season member of the Vancouver Canadians. Call 604-872-5232 or visit CanadiansBaseball.com. The BC Lions are absolutely decimated by injury heading into tomorrow's game in Calgary. Like the absolute worst time of the year to be losing some of your top players, and that's what's happened here for the Lions coming out of that victory last week against Ottawa and heading into this game against the Stamps.
If you have a residency agreement with BC Place, you are riddled by injury. That's what I'm hearing here.
Is it the turf? CFL leading rusher James Butler is out. So is Canadian slot back Javon Catoy. Xander Horvath starts at tailback. Kieran Poisson, mostly a special teamer, 8 career catches, starts for Catoy. The offense not only loses some weaponry, I did the math. Butler and Catoy have combined for 259 touches this season, about 20 per game. So there are a lot of balls to go around for Keon Hatcher and Eberhard and Barry Hill and some of the existing holdovers. In
Those
the
three
Lions
veterans are going to see a
positions.
lot.
I would
passes.
think that Keon Hatcher. I mean, of course, but here's the thing, Blake. Because they're missing these guys, I suspect Hatcher will get more coverage, right?
Well, do you think? Yes. Yeah, exactly. Pretty easy to imagine who Nathan Rourke is looking at when the ball is snapped.
Yeah. And look, if it was just that, okay. But both your offensive tackles are out also.
Not good.
All-star Dejon Allen, who was practicing this week, he didn't make it back in time for his first game since June. Fellow All-Star Jarrell Broxton, out with a foot injury. Corey Woodruff slides out from guard to left tackle. Chris Slugger at right tackle. You've got 2 natural guards on the outside that could be awfully dangerous for quarterback Nathan Rourke in the pocket.
I've got an idea.
Mm-hmm. Play a 6th offensive lineman all day.
No, you have Whitey out there. You have Sean White playing as sort of a roamer back using his rugby-style squib kicks.
Free kick it all the way down the field.
Free kick it.
Free kick it all the way down the field.
They wouldn't know what was happening in the Stampeders.
Yeah. Sean White in the backfield. He does that like itty-bitty punt just over the line of scrimmage as an onside man, recovers it, gets you a new set of downs.
CFL rugby rules. Just keep doing it.
Newcomer Bradley Anai, he's out at defensive end after getting a start last week. His first week as a Lion. Kamoko Tarai returns at that spot. 4 other changes for BC. TJ Lee, club legend, he's back at halfback. Alas, veteran DB and their best. Gary Peters, a game time decision. Wow.
Good luck, guys.
That's going to be tough.
And this is after...
We were so optimistic about the Lions this week. I know we were looking at it going, hey, Winnipeg's got the quarterback issues. You're got some breathing room on those Eastern teams for the crossover. Edmonton lost. You've got 2 against the Stamps. There's a pathway here. We were talking about it yesterday.
The best laid plans, folks.
Yeah. Results of the Redwoods Golf Course poll question from Wednesday asked you, should the Canucks go all in and mortgage the future for Quinn Hughes? People said
yes.
Correct. Percentage?
68.
65. Pretty good, Blake. Second time I'm going to say this in the last fortnight. Some days I go into the comments on the poll and, well, you know what comments are like. This was one of those days where I went in and went, wow, that's a lot of really smart analysis. K-Town. Honestly, I don't think the all-in approach works here. Quinn has seen how stopgap fixes don't lead to sustained success. Keep building through the draft. Be smart in free agency. If he's not going to sign long-term, he needs to see the team will be good for the next 5 to 6 years. Logan, if they're all in, should it not be to win a Stanley Cup? Should it be to win a Stanley Cup, not with the hopes of appeasing a player? I get you probably don't have one without the other, but the why matters. Very smart. Curtis, shouldn't the question be, is Hughes dumb enough to think an all-in year is reason to stay? It's a good point, too.
Well, and this one and the first one are sort of barking up the same tree of but it's semantics as to what all in is, I suppose, because you go all in to acquire there's no rumors here, folks, to acquire a Mason McTavish. Well, that's a long-term play. Like there's a young player you would, be looking to have him for a long time. If you're acquiring, a Marty Netchess in his last year, no, you're right. That's pretty transparent, risky, and doesn't prove anything to anybody, I think. Yep. You're right.
Greg, the future is Quinn Hughes. Without him, there is no future. Simple but poignant. And Uncle Rico, when you have the best defenseman in the world on your team making 50% of his market value, you go all in. And that almost applies independent of the will he or won't he re-sign, right? There is a school of thought that, you see it in the NFL. You got the quarterback on the rookie deal, go for it. Because quarterback's going to wind up costing you $40, $50 million a year.
Yep.
And the same applies here, I think, especially with this escalating salary cap. Errors and omissions, I led you down a bad path yesterday. Kenji Cabrera, Peruvian.
Peru and Chile really should just form a super country because everybody gets the mix.
Do you know how long Chile is? Like Chile could be a bridge from North America to Europe. It is that long.
And how did they get away with they're the one that's on the coast, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like they hogged all the waterfront.
All the waterfront. Good real estate there, Chile.
Like poor Peru. No, it's Peru that has all the
Peru has some.
Both doing pretty well.
Peru does well on the waterfront.
Bolivia.
Yeah, Bolivia really gets
robbed
screwed
of it.
Here. Yeah.
Robbed of it.
Now Argentina gets the waterfront on the South Atlantic side.
Yeah.
After.
But Chile was just like, you know what? We're going to take all of the waterfront, and then you guys can take all the stuff back there. We don't give two rats' ass about the arid desert behind us.
Mm-hmm. You know the Strait of Magellan?
Yeah. No, well. Yeah. Good times. Mm-hmm. Magellan. Now that guy could explore.
He went a long way. It was a long, long way down to the tip, southern tip.
Back then, they used to have not team power rankings. It was explorer power rankings. There was no sport back then.
Yeah, Magellan was ranked high by the AP.
Oh, yeah. Coaches
poll really liked Magellan. Good grit, determination.
Yes.
He's going to go there? Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. It's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky Live on Mayo's platforms, noon Pacific time. We'll be live from Yellow Dog Brewing in Penticton tomorrow. So if you're in the South Okanagan, want to stop by, come say hello. We'd love that. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.